Friday. Hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. This is your round 20 preview show, your squad show looking into our match upcoming against Brisbane tomorrow. I'm recording this very early on Saturday, the 25th of July, so that's when it will come in to your feeds. Apologies. We were going to do it on Thursday night. Jamie was a bit crook and he's still crook, so I'm jumping in to do it on my own. We delayed until last night, hoping that he'd be all right. But he said that he could barely get through a sentence without coughing up a lung. So not good for podcasting. But we hope Jamie's back soon. He's someone who battles through a lot to get onto the podcast most weeks. So when he says he's just not going to be able to go, then I know that he's battling. So hopefully we'll see Jamie back on very soon. But for now, the preview show is just me. So good luck to you all out there having to deal with that. But yes, we play Brisbane up at the Gabba, as it's been known again, obviously in cricket terms for a long time, but I think it's been that for the Brisbane Lions the last few years in their incredible run with their titles and they've played in 3 grand finals in a row. Could have very easily won the first one and be on the way to a 4-peat, all things going the same beyond that. So they've been the class of the competition for a long time now. Once again, and we have a very stern test awaiting us as we take them on Sunday afternoon, early Sunday afternoon, 12:40 p.m. our local time here in South Australia. We'll get into that shortly, everything about that game. But there's a bit of news around this week, a bit of stuff to talk about, and probably the one that's most positive for us Port fans. And I'm sure we'll start seeing hopefully a few more of these kind of stories pop out in the next couple of weeks as this time of year comes, where some of these re-signings happen. Obviously, the one that we're all looking towards at the back end of the season is probably more unlikely, but it is very promising for where the club is going that a player like Jack Whitlock has signed on, extended for another 5 years, and that is being with the fact that he is still he was already contracted for next year, 2027. So he's extended for 5 years. So it means from this point now we've got him for the next 6 years after this season. Incredible faith from the club to lock him up for a good amount of time. It means that by the time he gets to the back end of that contract, it will be 8 seasons under our colours, and he will be well entrenched and in place as one of the star forwards in the competition, even sooner than that. But it's a show of faith from the club in Jack Whitlock. It's a show of faith from Whitlock in the club. Obviously, a lot of these things kind of just happen, but there has been plenty of times where young stars have wanted to move on shortly after, or the clubs have not found their way. So it means it's a great faith from both ways. The club is very happy with what they've got in Jack Whitlock, and Jack Whitlock, through his words, you can go to the official website, of course, and see Port Adelaide's official website and see kind of just the media around it. Whitlock's taken some great photos, of course. But obviously had the press conference stuff around it and had his say about how much he loves the club, how he's felt pretty at home straight away, and that shows in his play. That shows in how he's been playing this year. Obviously, the Rising Star nomination this year, some incredible performances, and I've said on the podcast with Jamie a few times in the last couple of weeks, what's actually really impressing me about his back end of the season this year is he doesn't seem to be. You can sometimes be, you can be forgiven as a younger player for if you have your first full season. Sometimes maybe just the stamina running out. You're still building your levels to be able to get through an AFL season. And sure, we might see that, maybe some signs of that in the last few weeks here, but particularly in the previous few weeks, he's been showing incredible energy and getting up and down the ground, taking some great marks. Doesn't seem to be showing any signs of seasonal fatigue, so to speak, and that's really impressing me as to how his attributes to preparation for the season go. There's a lot of talk about how he's eaten out of house and home to try and build bulk, and is working really hard on himself to continually improve and to get his body ever more in shape for the true AFL key forwards kind of body. But you're just seeing, but in amongst that is a player that's already got the fundamentals really down. Obviously, execution of fundamentals here and there, like goal kicking, etc. Those things will tighten up as the years go on. But just the core fundamentals of positional placement, ability to mark overhead, reading the ball, even just like things like that, Joe Berry torp that he was able to kind of get a good read on and just get separation from his defender last week. obviously then handballed off to dirt. And there's a lot of examples of that building. There's a real good data set of video and data of what Jack Whitlock can do and his abilities to read balls, mark them, get up and down the ground, understand his role with Mitch Georgiades as well. It's a really nice little partnership they've got as to when to yin and yang, back and forth, where to be. Like a lot of these key fundamentals are already there, and it's really, really exciting to see. So a great one to lock up for a good long period of time now, and just be able to focus on the footy. Loved what I was seeing from the Port Adelaide players as well. Obviously, players, when player signs on or any news comes out, all the players are going to share it to their social media, and you'll see some, whatever the nicknames are. There's a lot of DJ Wit. So if I've missed something there, in jokes and whatnot from that's been around, but there was one in particular that really, really tickled me. Mitch Georgiades shared the post, and he said, "Congrats, Neil," or something to that effect. And I went, "Neil, that's interesting. I haven't heard that nickname before." There was a few other ones floating around, but he was the Georgiades, as far as I'm aware, was the only one that called him Neil. And I was like, "Oh, I wonder what that's about." And then, immediately, the next post in Mitch Georgiades' story was just a still image of Neil from the British show The In-Betweeners. And immediately I was like, of course, it's Neil, from The In-Betweeners. Now, if you haven't seen The In-Betweeners, incredible show, 3 seasons of it that it was. High school comedy, I guess, a very, very kind of crude kind of English high school comedy of 4 lads got just their adventures through upper levels of high school in England. Incredible comedy, great, well written. It's where there's a lot of memes that come from it that you probably have seen over the years, but there is a tall, somewhat lanky character called Neil that Whitlock does. You could see, I can see where Georgiades is coming from with that visual comparison, and that really, really tickled me, because The In-Betweeners is a show I've rewatched a few times. It's one of those nice little background ones to throw on and have a good chuckle at. So very, very good stuff from Georgiades there. And that Neil one kind of similarly reminds me of how we in the early years of Justin Westhoff had that kind of Napoleon Dynamite, comparison. And if Whitlock can be anywhere near as beloved as Justin Westhoff was by the end, then he will have had a very, very good career. And honestly, he's setting himself up already to be very, very dangerous key forward. That is providing a lot of headaches in the competition, as we said last week. He was a fair old headache for the likes of Alex Pearce and co last week, which is a real feather in the bow for Jack Whitlock's young career already. That's some really exciting news, and hopefully we'll see a few more, just little bits of news about extensions. I'd love to see that Mitch Georgiades one that Chris Dittmar floated on Triple M 2 weeks ago. Apparently that was complete hogwash. I'm assuming that hopefully there's something close, but Mitch Georgiades was on SAFM this week, or I think this week or last week, the rival station anyway, and said, there's been no signings. I've said before, maybe I haven't said on air before, but when the Dittmar Georgiades extension news dropped, I say dropped with quotation marks on Triple M, I think I sent a text to Jamie actually and said, look, I take everything Dittmar says with a grain of salt, to be honest, but this is interesting, and that's why I take it with a grain of salt. I don't know why. I know Dittmar's a Port fan. He's kind of the Port representative in that studio with Loz and Rue, obviously both being Crows people. So I just don't find Dittmar Mail to be something that I ever put too much stock in, and I send it with that caveat that it's Dittmar, but I assume if he's going with this, he's got some fairly tight mail, but apparently not. I'm sure. I do hope that we get that. Would be lovely, but the Mitch Georgiades story is probably the next one to bubble once the Zach Butters one runs its course, and it would be lovely to see him sign on sooner, so we don't have to deal with that. But that would be a piece of news that would really tickle me. But hopefully, the likes of Whitlock and a few of those other ones around the key periphery, even the Ollie Wines and co, those kind of stories as well. So it's that time of year that we'll start seeing a few. But Whitlock's a very, very nice one, and the length of term on it is a very, very nice one as well. So really, really excited about that one getting done and dusted. More going on at the moment. We are getting it ever closer to the start of the AFLW season. The AFLW side, of course, is today, Saturday the 25th of July, having a practice match at Alberton against the Melbourne Demons. Free to attend. I went down last week for the first three quarters of the one against Fremantle, and it was really, really nice to see the ladies out there doing their thing again. There was a few. It's funny. I texted Jamie this last week as well. I walked in and obviously Matilda Scholes wasn't playing in the practice match, and I was just sitting there wondering, okay, I guess they hold Matilda out, and there's a few others not playing, Gemma Houghton, etc. as well. Then I walked into Adelaide Oval, an hour and a half later, and heard Matilda on the mic with Jared Walsh and Rosie, and just went, oh, for fuck's sake, of course she wasn't there. Yeah. And whether they were going to hold her out anyway, I don't know, but she was clearly had her job to do that day, as far as a very, very cool part of the match day emceeing this year has been adding Matilda into the crew, and really, really good to see. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, of course she wasn't playing in the practice match. She had her job to do. But yeah, practice match today at Alberton Oval. Free to attend. Obviously, highly encourage you to get down there for that, and encourage you to, if you haven't got memberships or tickets or whatever, start. If you're not going to be able to get to all games, you're not sure what you're doing, at least have a look at the fixture and start buying up your tickets to get to some games. We've got a home showdown this year, so that one is going to be a big one at the back end of the year. I think the 3rd of October, I reckon that is, but don't quote me on that. Check the fixture. Home showdown this year, so that one's one that'll definitely have a higher ticketing demand, I would expect. We won our first showdown last year against the Crows in the AFLW. We want to back that up this year with wearing the Brisbane bars at home. So yeah, we really want to see a big crowd for that one, but as well as the rest of the games this year. I think our first home game, I'm pretty sure, is the 23rd of August. So get around the ticketing, get around a membership if you haven't already, and thinking about it. They're cheap and good value for the fact that you get a bunch of games at Alberton. Jamie and I have been strong on how good the culture around going to an AFLW game day already is at Alberton. Strongly supported, good vibes. Alberton's a great place to go. The upgrades to the facilities, both for fans and players alike, over the past 5-10 years have been incredible. And shout out to the women who did get their first look at their new facilities this year. I was actually being down there last weekend. A lot of that construction around the Alan Scott headquarters has gone, is pretty much done from the looks, just on the outside of it. And obviously the ladies got their opened up into their new facilities during this week as well. So, having gone to Alberton a lot over the last year, there's been a lot of construction on the Alan Scott headquarters side, but it is the fences are down, the new fences are up, the building looks, whether there's some cosmetic logo stuff to go up, I'm not sure, but by and large it looks more or less done mostly. I assume they're doing a few things on the inside, but so another kind of step in the milestone step for the club in upgrading those facilities, and the ladies certainly look like they're going to enjoy them, and they look schmick. I'd love to actually get a tour through there at some point. Maybe I should contact someone. I don't know how to go about that, but I'd love to actually get a look through the facilities at some point, because I never have actually, and it would be wonderful to see kind of what the club's working with and what they've done over the last 5-10 years, both for the men and women in that space is great, and obviously Alberton is a great place to go for footy. I know it was mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think, with Sam Powell-Pepper going out and stopping play. They were talking about the Alberton Oval Deck maybe not being quite in the best nick it could be for the footy at that time, but hopefully it's going to be schmicko for the ladies to get around there and start winning some games of footy this year. So get around them in the practice match today if you can. Probably be a beautiful day down in Alberton to have a look at them, and then obviously we've got the season upcoming. Jamie and I will start threading the AFLW into episodes when we can, obviously as needs based, as far as when games start. Definitely we're talking about it a bit. It is that interesting time of year with Jamie and I having limited time to do the podcast, prep time and all those things with our day jobs and lives and everything around that. The crossover of AFLW and AFL men's does provide a real test of our stretching our abilities, but we do try to thread that needle, and I think we've done a pretty good job over the past couple of years. So that'll happen across the next few weeks as we kind of, finish off the men's season and also roll into the women's season as well. So keep looking out for that, and keep getting around the ladies and what they're doing. They're doing some. It's an exciting team that's building. They had some real moments of excitement last year, and we're really, really excited to get into it this year as well. One more bit of news I found really interesting that dropped this week. I think it actually only dropped yesterday. Port Adelaide and New Era have secured a landmark partnership together. So New Era is the hat company that Port Adelaide wears. I'm wearing a Portland Trailblazers hat, but this is a New Era cap. You can see on the left side, it's the flag New Era. If you're watching on YouTube, this is a global brand. New Era is the benchmark in kind of headwear for sporting organisations around the world. It is the official headwear partner it's been the headwear partner for Major League Baseball for the longest time. It's actually Major League Baseball up until about, 2015, 2016, never had a logo on the side of the hats, even though it was New Era sponsored. It was a old baseball rule, but then baseball, as all things go, eventually New Era was able to actually start planting their logo on the side of the hats that they were making anyway. They were still available, like it was just basically on-field cap only. It was very just baseball tradition, but even that's gone by the wayside. New Era's logo branding is on everything around the world. Major soccer clubs, like I'll go into the Liverpool store when I was over in Liverpool a few months ago, New Era branding caps. Every Major League Baseball team, basketball, NFL, hockey has a bit of it hockey does have New Era caps these days as well. Every sporting, and that for me as a guy that wears a lot of hats, they are the ones that they build different styles of them, whether it be A-frames or the snaps, the fitted caps, all of them. They're the only caps that I've been able to consistently buy throughout my life that fit my big head. and I can find the ranges and different styles to work with. So they're a great company, and obviously have come into the AFL over the past. I remember buying my first probably New Era port cap around 2012, I reckon. So they started coming into the AFL probably 14, 15 years ago, and have really, it is the premium hat brand for all teams now. So it is something that's been available for a long time now. If you go down to the Port store, there's a big rack of hats that are predominantly New Era down there. So it's not like it's new, but what this is, and I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it's the release on the Port Adelaide website reads, Port Adelaide has secured a landmark partnership with New Era, with the iconic global brand joining the club as its official headwear partner. The partnership will support both the club's AFL and AFLW programs and represents New Era's largest club-level investment in the AFL. So it's actually a deal beyond, it's like a branding deal with Port Adelaide, that they're actually going to kind of do more with Port Adelaide than they just do. Like, obviously, they've got the branding deal just to make the headwear for different clubs. Like, that's, clubs are going to have New Era headwear. But what they're actually going to do with Port Adelaide is they're going to feature more as a partner with the club. They've had a strong, I think they do a lot of great, they seem to have a really great handle with Port Adelaide. I actually know that the Thunder Power cap that I should talk about a little bit more that I have was a Port Adelaide branding incentive from someone at Port Adelaide. Actually wanted to do something kind of like the Baltimore Orioles Oriole logo, like building off of the mascot and doing something fun with that. And I think they should do more with that. I'd love to see that Thunder Power logo utilized a little bit more beyond the cap and beanie that they've done. So there's already been that kind of like ingenuity going with the club and what they're doing. But it says, as part of the partnership, New Era will expand its presence across the club's retail network, including the Port Store, Adelaide Oval, and online channels. The collaboration will also feature exclusive player-designed headwear collections, offering members and supporters unique products inspired by their favourite players. Port Adelaide General Manager, Consumer Business and Marketing, Stephen Shirley, said the General Manager, the way that's written, I feel like there's a sentence structure thing going on there, my editing brain. But anyway, said the club was excited to formalise its long-standing relationship with New Era. Over the past decade, we've built a strong working relationship with Simon Hibbs and the team at New Era, and we're delighted that this has developed into an official partnership. This partnership allows us to further expand our headwear range and provide members and supporters with an even broader selection of products to shop at the Port Store, Adelaide Oval, and online. We're always looking for ways to provide our members and supporters with the highest quality on-trend merchandise, and New Era is unquestionably best in class in that space. That's my view as well. This is one of the premium brands. I can't stress this enough. For those that maybe don't look at world sports as much, I kind of said off the top the connections they have, but this is unquestionably one of the leading brands in world sports merchandise, and in particular, stylish merchandise. You've obviously got this traditional cap, but there's a lot of style in what New Era does around the world. Like I said, their fits and the styles are the ones that work for me, and they've long been the benchmark in headwear around sports headwear around the world, and then they branch out from that as well. But This is the primo top of the pops headwear company in world sports, and it's going to take something. It's kind of like they've gotten to that level similar to the likes of Nike, Adidas, etc. That they're so entrenched that it's just like, even if someone else comes along, like when you had Under Armour come along and try to challenge Nike for a while, and they're different brands, they just can't, because they're not going to be able to. Once a company has their kind of webs and out there, it's hard to top, particularly when they keep doing top quality stuff themselves. So for Port Adelaide to kind of get a partnership like this, I think this is incredible stuff for the club. Shows some ingenuity in what the club's doing, and the branding opportunities and the partnerships they're looking for as well, and the fact that they can do this with a company as big as New Era, and kind of set a benchmark for this kind of partnership in the AFL world as well, I think is really, really good. I'm really happy for the club to have kind of found that deal and done the deal. It's incredible stuff. I was really, really kind of, I wasn't expecting it. I'm sure like partnership deals and stuff like this, for a lot of people, like it's outside of the purview of on-field performance and whatnot. So, a lot of people might have just hit your inbox, you send the notification and kind of just gone, okay, whatever. But for me, when I saw that pop up yesterday, I was really, really intrigued by it, and really interested to see what the press release would actually say, because I just saw obviously the Instagram post about it. But yeah, this is good stuff. This is what we want the guys behind. I know we want the club to all be focused on winning premierships, and as far as the people that are in that space, list managers and coaches and all that, I absolutely trust they are. And obviously from the top level down to CEO, when they're tasked with talking to the on-field stuff, they do that. But the part of what those guys that are in the boardrooms and the administrative spaces of the club are there to do is to look for things like this too. So they're doing the job in that space. And considering the years we had with the GFG sponsorship debacle, which is not our fault at all, but just the fact they've negotiated their way through that and figured that out. They kind of just, it never felt like too much of an issue. The club just negotiated its way through that, found the new sponsors, and then we're continuing to build kind of industry-leading partnerships in this space as well. So really, really good stuff. This is good stuff for the club going forward to build and strengthen brand partnerships with key big brands around the world as well. So while it's not going to do too much for our on-field, I think, if you're a Port fan, you should be happy with these kind of stories popping up. It's just a little bit of happiness, but these are good things that the club is doing. I'd be worried if we weren't doing any of these kind of things. It would mean that the club is a little bit, on its back heels, but they're really forging forward and trying to find new ways to engage and build positive new partnerships. So good stuff, Port Adelaide. One more thing on branding, actually, as I just pop back in before I get to some preview stuff for 15 minutes. I apologise. This has gone a lot longer than I expected. But hey, this is what the purview of this squad show allows, is a little bit of like, the news of the week's kind of stuff when it's there. And there's been a few things pop up this week. I'm not even going to talk about the fact that Ken Hinkley has a new coaching job next year at all this week. I might save that for when Jamie's on again at some point. Not that that's too much affecting us, but Port Adelaide Women's, they had their photo day the other day as well. And just a small note, it seems that the clubs in the AFLW are now going to be wearing their independent club-aligned merchandise on field. So the women are going to be wearing Macron Guernseys as well. For the last few years, it seems like all the league has been had to have the Cotton On branding partnership. It reminds me similar, and if I've got the details of how that partnership worked wrong, I apologise, but we were wearing Cotton On. Every team seemed to be wearing Cotton On. It's reminiscent of the first few years of the A-League, where every team wore Reebok. Like there was a league-wide sponsorship on jerseys, but once that expired, teams just started wearing what they, A-League clubs started wearing whatever, got their own partnership deals, and that's the way it's continued since. And the way it is in, a lot of European sports as well. Interestingly, American sports is always, league partnerships with companies. So, NBA's Nike jerseys, NFL as well, baseball as well. Nike's really got the monopoly there. But AFL men's, we've always seen clubs have their different, aligned, partnerships with different Guernsey companies. AFL men's, we've of course been Macron since 2021, I believe it was. I think the one COVID year was the last year with ISC. So we've been Macron for a while, and that's built into a strong partnership with the men's side. And the women, if you look at their photo day photos, they've actually got Macron on the shoulder though, because they've still got the Telstra logo out on the nape of the neck there, where the Macron logo usually sits on the men's side. I think that's just an AFL women's Guernsey thing that they have to do. So they've kind of got the Macron logo up on one of the shoulders. Looks kind of odd, I think, at first glance, but at the end of the day, Guernseys still look dope. The women have a good selection of Guernseys for them to wear, and I'm excited that they now get to have the Macron branded gear as well. I didn't mind some of the cotton on shirts and media polos and whatnot. I've got a couple of them around somewhere. Didn't mind them. Nothing against what cotton on were, but I think it's probably good for the club just to have the two teams aligned in the same merchandising as well. So whatever deal was there with the AFLW and cotton on has expired, or whatever was going on there, and the women will now be wearing Macron gear as well from the looks of the photos on the photo day. So yeah, just more just nuffy chat from me about branding and companies and whatnot. But these are parts of the modern sports landscape, and I enjoy getting a little bit nuffy about it as well. So thank you for indulging me with that. Let's get to some Brisbane preview here. Alrighty, so we play Brisbane, of course, early Sunday afternoon, 12:40 p.m. local for us. Brisbane, no changes. Must be nice. Let us know how that feels. I know we had a few weeks earlier in the season where we went unchanged for a couple of weeks, and that was a novelty, and it's certainly not the case at the moment. So for us, on our side, we have, obviously, Joe Richards was injured. We talked about that on the review show, and how that came out of nowhere. Joe Richards injured with that finger injury for a few weeks. So he's out injured. Jacob Ware and Jackson Mead have both been omitted. Probably fair enough on both. I think, Jackson Mead and to an extent, we'll talk about Todd Marshall in a sec, both of them have moments, just not enough moments. And so Jackson Mead's probably just in the needs-based areas. Getting a spell. Two big line ins, Jason Horne-Francis and Mitch Georgiades back in. Mitch Georgiades coming back in after clearing concussion protocols. Jason Horne-Francis after a week off with suspension. So, concussion protocols are always a concern. So you just make sure Mitch Georgiades doesn't get his bell rung again this week would be, hopefully nice, and no secondary concussions or anything like that. Jason Horne-Francis coming in off a week suspension means he's coming in, in tip-top shape apart from having missed a game of AFL footy. So that's nice and very, very much needed as we can kind of continue to negotiate this sudden kind of patchwork, throw people and figure out the midfield thing as we go, as we suddenly have to deal with no Zach Butters in there, and obviously Rosie being out for a long-term period as well. So, and Jack Watkins comes back in. I haven't watched too much Sandful. I don't get a chance to watch too much Sandful, but Jack Watkins looked all right a couple of weeks ago when I was down at the game. He's still one that it is just, he's never going, I don't think he's ever going to establish himself at the AFL level, but he can come in and play a role, and I'll be interested to see how he goes. He's not going to get any sterner tests than playing against, getting some runs and squirts in stoppage and whatnot against the Brisbane midfield group and whatever there is going on there. So it is really interesting to see how the midfield mix will shape up. Obviously named Ollie Wines. Look, he was incredible last week. It will be interesting to see. I think the big key question for me around the midfield is, does Ollie Wines get beyond 70% game time again? Because he went at 76% last week, which is by far his most he's played this year. And I think he handled it reasonably well, but in an aging body in particular, someone who's got some knee, degenerative knee issues, how that bounces back the next week will be really interesting. So how Ollie Wines looks when he plays, and then what kind of time on ground he gets this week will be interesting. Willem Drew, Horne-Francis obviously being there a lot. We saw a lot of Miles Bergman last week, playing in the midfield. He actually got a lot of CBA numbers, and he's obviously named in the back line on the team sheet, but he was named in the back line last week and played a lot still. So how he gets in there, I think he played well as well, got some clearances, and so that midfield mix will be really interesting as to how it works. Again, we're going to see we saw a unique one last week where we saw Joe Richards have the game of his career so far. Obviously, he's out, so that takes those numbers out. But then, how Jason Horne-Francis comes in, how that matches up with the needs and the style of player, because obviously Joe Richards and Jason Horne-Francis, two different players. Miles Bergman, a different player again, bigger body. Miles Horne-Francis and Jason Bergman. Shout out to that little piece of social media content from years ago. So yeah, again, it's going to be, Jace Burgoyne I thought is starting to show something there as well. So what those mixes are, I'll be really interested in. Obviously, it's coming up against a very, very good Brisbane midfield, in which we're going to need to, if we're going to have any chance in this game, which I don't think we have much chance, but we've also given ourselves chances in every game this year almost, and so we want to see how we go. Again, it's a stern test. The Brisbane midfield, their clearance number, obviously being the midfield they are, their clearance numbers are quite formidable. They average 15 clearances from centre a game, which is very, very good numbers. And they also average the 25 stoppage clearances, over 25 stoppage clearances for a number of over 41 clearances per game versus our just a touch under 36. So our clearance numbers have been better this year than last year, and we've been getting some good wins in clearance as well. We obviously dominated Fremantle for a period of time last week, and they still ended up with a comfortable centre clearance differential by the end of the game. That just if you look at the second half, the numbers there are probably a little bit more even, possibly even. So with Brisbane, we're going to need to be at least even to even give ourselves a chance, because they just generate so much of their forward craft and their ability to score from just domination at stoppage and centre clearance. If they're getting 15 centre clearances a game and transitioning that to scoreboard pressure, that's just where games are won and lost. And I think with our midfield mix, I think we can get some wins there. It's just, but we're really, if we're going to have any chance in this game to have one of those games, and I think even if we do even up the contest at stoppage and centre clearance, it still will just mean maybe just another honourable, heartbreaking, ethical tanking loss, rather than we're going to actually need to beat them well there if we're going to have a chance of winning this game. Again, going up to the GABBA, it's a tall task and just a place that we don't. We played okay there last year. That was a Sam Powell-Pepper ACL game. He was kind of trying to drag us back into the game and having an incredible third quarter, I believe it was, from memory, and then obviously got injured, and then the game kind of fell away from there. But they're inside 50 numbers, and their ability to get inside 50s via their clearance and stoppage and kind of forward half game, which is very similar to ours. Their forward half numbers are similar to ours, but then their time in possession on the ground is very. They get time in possession, they win clearance, and they turn it into score, and that's what's going to be interesting here. They average. They both win the ball. Basically, their attacking numbers are all in their favour. Inside 50s, 8 more a game. Shots, 6 more a game. Scores per inside 50, almost at 50% versus our 46%. Points from stoppage, 43 versus 43.3 versus our 28.6. Points from turnover, 58.5 versus our 47.3. Their turnover numbers are similar to ours, but its ability to score on turnover, and we don't. Our ball movement is still going to be an issue with an inexperienced side. That is going to be the issue all year and into next year as we develop. Brisbane are a very, very good ball movement team. They obviously, whether it be moving it from stoppage and centre clearance or taking it from halfback with the Wilmots and co, they've got the players at each line to be able to work out the game. That's why they're going there. That's why they're motorboating their way to a fucking 4th grand final appearance, all going well for them. Them and Fremantle are the 2 best teams in the competition, in my view. Now, we had a good game against Freo last week, but I think that was obviously home ground was important for us to actually just even have a chance against Freo last week, and we kind of built on that energy in the early part of the game. Going to Brisbane is going to be a whole different beast, and when you look at those numbers, they're worrying. Now, all of the defensive numbers are on our side. We are the better defensive team. We don't give up a whole lot of points from stoppage. We don't give up a ton of points from. We're better on turnover points, but so that's going to be. It's going to come down to that. It's going to be how much we can frustrate them, frustrate their ball movement. When we put the pressure on last week against Freo, we were able to frustrate that ball movement. When Freo started pulling the game away from us a little bit and getting out in space, and just using the handball game a little bit, and then their kicks as well. Brisbane are just a very, very elite. They have their moments in the turnover game and whatnot. Like, they're not perfect, but AFL games are about a weight of numbers thing in how much you attack a game and how good you are. You can afford a few turnovers and whatnot, and that's what Brisbane do. They're so good with their ball movement and stuff like that. If they have a turnover here and there, yeah, they're probably going to look at us and go, look, they're not great. Like, if we turn it over trying to go inside 50, we're going to be able to probably stop them coming the other way because they're not a great transitional team at the moment. They're dealing with a few injuries and whatnot. So they're going to kind of probably back themselves in to attack us. If they do, we force a couple of turnovers here and there. They're going to try and it'll be working around a Lear. They're coming inside 50. We'll be working around a Lear. They're just like we're going to have players to try to frustrate their forwards. Obviously some good forwards that they have, whether it be the tools, a couple of, Logan Morris and co, or the ones at ground level, as they're going to kind of trust their process and just their elite disposal coming out of midfield and coming from the back end. They're going to be able to figure us out and just weight of numbers. If they're going to get 58 inside 50s against us, they're just going to trust their weight of numbers to get there, and then their ability to probably turn us over will be what they're going to be looking for. And I think we can. Again, the structure is holding up this year. The structure is holding up against the best sides. It's not holding up enough to get us towards a win. That's the thing. Is like if we can look. I look at Brisbane and go, they're averaging 106 points a game. If we can keep them to around 100 or below, like last week against Freo was the first time a team scored 100 against us since the Kangaroos did earlier in the year. So if we can keep Brisbane below some of these averages, then that will be a win for me. And then it just depends how much we can score. And we're just getting towards that 70 to 75, 80 point number every week. It seems like we find our way there, sometimes a bit below, but often if you look at our scores this year, I think there was a run of games where I think there was about 4 or 5 games in a row. It was somewhere between 71 and 74 points we were scoring. And last week we scored 75. And we just seem to find our way to that score. And often an X score often says sometimes we should score a little bit more. But I just think that's where our limit is based on how good of a scoring opportunity we can generate. Georgiades coming back in is interesting. Obviously, it gives the Whitlock Georgiades dynamic again. Todd Marshall keeps his place, which I think is a little bit lucky. Will say, I think he had a couple of moments early last week that his lead-up play, connectivity, leading out of the forward 50, getting a good kick inside 50. He had a couple of those moments, and then it just didn't continue for the game. He just didn't get much of the ball. Yeah, he's probably skating on thin ice as far as his position goes, but I don't know who you're bringing in or out as well. So I'm not too worried about him keeping his place. It's another chance for him, and we're lacking some tall timber around the ground as well. So particularly the likes of Lukosius out as well. So Todd Marshall, another chance for him to maybe show something. He's really going to need to start showing something because he's probably the next one out at the moment as far as the side selected goes. But yeah, they've obviously got some great defenders down there as well. So to be working around that, but again, there's some games this year that we've shown a great propensity to work around interceptors and find opportunities. Georgiades, the way he roams the forward 50 or roams out, and he just tests his speed of pace when he breaks off on the lead, or his just ability. He's so tricky for a defender to try to figure out where he's going and how his leading pattern is going to work, that he can just stretch a team if he's getting an opportunity to do that. And then that obviously frees up space for Whitlock to find as well, playing on the second defender. And then a few others that end up down there. Horn Francis obviously might spend some time in forward 50 again. So there's danger to be had there, but it's going to be our ability to generate good opportunity will come down to how much we can get a little bit of maybe wins in the midfield and stoppage game. And if they're beating us at stoppage and beating us at centre clearance, we're just going to be trying to that means we're going to be having to spend more time transitioning down there, which could mean more rush kicks, more dump kicks, more shallow kicks inside 50, and not great opportunity for the forward. So the marks inside 50 game will be interesting this week and see how they transition to good opportunity. Again, as Jamie says often, we need a marks inside 30 stat as well, because that's where we're probably falling down this year, is actually getting those good opportunities. And occasionally when we do get those good opportunities, our players are just not taking full advantage of them. But it's an intriguing one. One that I find interesting, because Wheelo ratings last week was pretty generous to Port Adelaide's chances, and actually the Wheelo ratings prediction ended up spot on. They had us at a 70-something% chance of a 28-point loss. This week, this is stark. They've got Wheelo ratings has a 92.6% chance of Brisbane by 46.9 points. So that's they were spot on last week. If they're spot on this week, then this is going to be This is going to be our toughest loss of the year, right up there with the North Melbourne one. But it is interesting. Then you look at AFL, the AFL website, and they have the sports bet stats up there. Again, we don't condone sports betting, but if you enjoy it, that's fine. Gamble responsibly. I just find betting odds again interesting for what they say about what the sports betting markets are looking at, and they've got us at $6, roughly $6 for the win. So the betting odds are closer this week than they were last week, because we were almost, I think it was $9.50 we were paying by the time we went into the Freo game. It was $10 earlier in the week, so they were really giving us no chance against Freo. Again, they were probably just going on the injuries. So I think, whereas, I think Willow Ratings actually looks at things a little bit better, probably. And that's a shout out to Willow Ratings, and what maybe the betting agency should say, take some key notes from the good analysts out there. But Willow Ratings is not giving us, that's the most highest percentage chance of a heavy loss I've seen them give Port Adelaide this year, and just goes to show we're going to the Gabba. We're playing the 2-time reigning premiers, 3-time reigning grand finalist as well. So and we don't win at the Gabba all that often. I think the last time we won up there was when Brisbane was still shit. So yeah. There's not a whole lot of hope in going up there, but there's a whole lot of intrigue in how we play and this is the thing that we've been talking about all year, how we play against these sides. We want to see a performance, make it tough on Brisbane at times. If we make it tough on them for a couple of quarters and they kick away at the end or something like that, there'll be something to write home about. If we just come out slow on the heels and get just belted from go to woe, then that'll be concerning. But again, we're at the back end of a year with a lot of injuries. Just want to see continue the development, have a good game, Joe Berry, have a good game, Jack Whitlock, those kind of guys. Obviously, Horn Francis and Mitch Georgiades just continue to develop. They're at more advanced stages of development anyway, but keep working on their games. No around the corner kicks from places you don't need to go around the corner. That's my old man on the lawn thing this week. Just see what we can do. That's what I want to see. Just how we play against, the Freo game last week gave us a lot of pride in how we played against a very, very good team, despite the result. We want to feel some kind of vibe of that at the back end of this game. If we can come out of this game and go, look, we got beaten by 30, 35 points or something, but we saw some things. We tested it at times, different things like that. And look, if we could come away with some miracle win, then geez, that'll be probably the feather in the cap for the Josh Carr year, and then we'd all be looking at the ladder and going, oh, maybe we don't need to win anymore because that 15th spot is where we need to be. God damn the AFL and the need to tank. Looking forward to what this game provides us from a data point on how our development is going. Not looking forward to the likelihood of being beaten, but looking forward to what we can maybe glean out of it as we look forward to the next year or two. So, yeah. Sunday lunchtime, get around them, support the boys. If you're in Queensland, good luck going to the game as the away supporters. I know they've got a good contingent up there as well. So go well, and we will see you on Tuesday evening, so Wednesday morning release for the review show. Whatever the result brings, we'll be here to review it. Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy it. Stay safe out there, and can the fucking pair.